Okay. So yeah, I'm Amy McLennan, head of year for FS1 and director of the nursery. And I would just like to thank you for coming today, all about thinking about your child's pre-reading skills, writing skills, and really just a chance for you to ask any questions or anything that you might be concerned about. We can have a chat about. I see some of you in the corridor every day. But also, I just want to take this opportunity. If you do ever want to have a chat, I'm always there. My office is within the nursery, so just pop along or send me an email. So thank you all for coming today. I'm just going to share my screen and we'll get started. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see that? Okay. Excellent. I just want to take this opportunity as well to say that we're all a bit disappointed that we didn't start the year as much as we can in terms of being online. Some of us are isolating, which is not the best. But one thing that I've always noticed about the children and the parents of WSO is that we all pull together, we all get through it, and we all make the best of situations. So if you have been in that situation, which I know some of you currently are, thank you so much for being so supportive. I'm sorry, I've just got 4 people waiting in the waiting room. I'm just going to let them in. Hi, if you've just joined us, can I just ask you to mute yourself, please? And just so we can hear everyone. Okay. Can everybody just mute themselves? Thank you. Okay. If there is any time that it doesn't work or the screen stalls, can somebody please just unmute and let me know, because once I start talking, sometimes I just don't stop. Okay, so we're looking at PreReading reading skills in FS1 children, supporting and developing at home at school. By the end of this session, you will hopefully develop a better understanding of what pre-writing and reading is in FS1, be aware of the development skills that we should focus on for our children, and gain ideas of activities and resources that you can use with your child at home to help develop this. Every time I'm talking about, I've been working at WSO FS1 for 7 years now, and one thing that we always pride ourselves upon is, above everything, is our happiness of our children, that they're happy and they're healthy and they're safe, because learning can't happen without this. So before we start anything in FS1 and WSO, we make sure our children feel happy and confident and safe. And this is about building relationships with the teacher, about creating an environment that's calm and engaging, and that they want to come to school. We want children to want to come to school. We want it to be their second home, because that is where they spend most of their time. If they're not at home, they're at school. So that is our number one, and always have that in your back of your mind when you're ever thinking about learning, especially for FS children. Happiness is the key. If they're not engaged, if the brain's not engaged, then there's not any learning going to happen. In the early years, we focus on 3 main things: engagement, readiness levels, and learning style. So I always say to my teachers, if you don't want to do a task, then how do you think the children feel? Put ourselves in the children's shoes. Try the task for yourself first. If it takes you 1 minute and 2 seconds to do it, then it's not going to be very exciting for the child. We always have to look at how interested and motivated they are. And we all know as parents that, you know, some children are more engaged in things than others. So it's about finding out as an individual, what does that child like? How can we get them to be motivated and engaged? Readiness levels is also huge. Sorry, can I ask somebody to turn off their to mute themselves. Readiness levels is also a huge factor because some children are ready for one thing and some are not. We're all different humans, we're all different individuals. And a child who's ready to start holding a pen and write might be different from another child. And it's up to us as teachers to be able to recognize that readiness. And it's so important not to push children, not, not to give them something until they're ready. And it will always happen for them. It just might happen before, after others. And it's so important to remember that readiness levels when you're ready, when they're ready. And we also look at learning styles. Now, I'm sure as adults here, we all have different learning styles. I prefer to read and write down things, whereas some of the other teachers I know will never write down. They just like to look at things or watch things. Some people just like to listen. And it's the same for children. And again, they're so young that we as teachers need to find out what their preferred learning style is and how we can adapt that for them. And I always put this across as much as I can, that it's not a race. It's not about how quickly the children can climb the ladder. It's not about, oh, can they do this, this, and this, and this? We know that they're going to be learning for the rest of their life until they go to university. These are the first steps, and we want these first steps to be the best because it's their first experience of learning. So I know some parents might be thinking, oh, they're not doing this or they're not doing that. It will come. It all comes in its own time. And our job is to see every child as an individual. And I always really like this picture of the different ladders, like, bigger, smaller steps is the best way. Small baby steps. You still get to your goal instead of having these big expectations. We don't want to put too much pressure on these children. Again, they've been through a lot since COVID. We're in a different situation now. It's not about pressurizing learning. It's about seeing every child as an individual and let them develop at their own pace. Okay, so in terms of our curriculum, we follow the British Early Years curriculum, and it's comprised of 7 areas. We have the prime areas and the specific areas. Now, in FS1, and nursery, we really focus on the prime areas. So that's physical development, communication and language, and personal, social, and emotional. Because without these, then children can't really access the rest. Like communication language is probably one of the most important ones. Simple listening, simple talking, personal, social, and emotional development, getting them to know themselves, their feelings, who they are as a person. Physical development is your fine motor, your gross motor, dressing, undressing themselves, feeding themselves. And these are the main things that we do focus on in FS1 to give them a pathway to be able to go into literacy, maths, expressive arts, and understanding the world. Now, obviously, you're here to understand and learn more about pre-reading, but it's really important for me to share with you that these 3 areas are the most important to us. And I'm always astounded when I see my children go to FS2 and how quickly they pick up reading and writing. And some of you have already had that experience. And sometimes I go over and I can't believe it. But it's because in FS1, I'm not taking all the credit for FS1, but we don't push it. We focus on getting these foundational skills first so that when they go to FS2, they're ready to fly with it. It's not forcing letters and sounds on them. We're giving them all these things that they need to develop. Does everybody still hear me okay? I'm out. Yes, give me a thumbs. Thank you. So yes, these 3 areas are what we focus on. And when we're talking about pre-writing, these are even more important. So before learning to write, and think about this. Before learning to write, a child needs to get these pre-writing skills. We don't put a pencil in their hand and say, start to copy letters. They need to be able to squish Play-Doh, squeeze, thread, use scissors, trace, use art, sew. So when you're at home, give your child this experience of doing all these things before even thinking about writing, because we have to build the fine motor skills in their hands. We need to build the muscles in their hands. A lot of parents come to me and say, when are they getting the letters? When are they writing their name? When? No, this is not what we do. It's stages, okay? It's stages of writing. Children should always be experimenting with mark making. You know, give them pencils, crayons, paints. Sometimes children paint with vegetables or, you know, paint in the sand. It's just about experiencing that mark making and understanding that actually pictures make marks. I'm always fascinated by this picture as well. So this is a 3-year-old and this is a 7-year-old. So at 3 years old, their hands are still not fully formed, they're not fully developed. So it's our job to be able to stretch and grow and provide the right amount of these, so able to grow and be strong enough to hold the pencil to start writing. The best thing we can do is give them activities where they can exercise. And of course, play is number one for this. Play-Doh is always a great favorite. And when they're physically ready to write, they will. You know, we just stand back and watch. One day we'll see the children pick up a pen and start writing in a list for shopping. And that's them writing. And it might just look like scribbles and marks to you, but to them, that is them making that connection with the pen and paper. Okay, so here are just some ideas. This is what we do at school a lot. We just let the children explore mark making as much as they can in different ways, using toys. If you have a garden at home or a balcony, get a big bit of paper and just get the children to explore as much as they can with making different marks, making in sand. When you go to the beach, can you use your finger? Shaving foam is my personal favorite. The children love it, it's sensory, and they get to make marks. And again, it's making that connection. So we call it the 3 stages of writing. And sometimes it's nice for you just to give your child a pen and paper, sit back, and then you can look at this and actually decide what stage are they at in their writing. First of all, it's obviously the scribble, and we expect that up to 2.5 years. Naturally making marks, they might say, oh, this is mummy, this is daddy, this is a dragon, you know, but to them it's real. Then it starts to get symbolic. So they start to make figures and start to be able to name the figures. And we try for our children in FS1 to get to this stage at least, where they're able to make figures and name them. You can start to see the head, the arms, things like that. And then 3 to 5 years is the recognizable. So they start to constantly draw and name items that are recognizable to most people. So they draw a picture, you're able to tell what it is without asking them. So it's symbolic to them. Again, just you can go back and read this yourself at another time in more detail, but again, I'm highlighting the importance of fine motor skills. I know lots of things, getting to do the buttons themselves, to zipping up their clothes. I know sometimes as parents, you're like, I just want to do it to be quick, but giving them that time, stepping back and letting them try these things for themselves is so much better for them in the long run. They're able to build on it and develop their fine motor skills as well as their independence. And actually, fine motor skills are actually connected to how a child learns to read, how they complete maths, and higher level thinking all comes around fine motor. And, you know, when I think back to when I was at school, I didn't get lots of development for fine motor skills. It took me a while to like get into handwriting. And again, just think about that for yourself, your own experience. How much time were you given? Or were you just given a pencil and says, right? You know, we have to give these children time to make that connection. Sorry, I'm just letting other people enter the waiting room. Okay. Again, all these activities you can do at home and should be seeing when you drop your children off in the morning. You should be seeing them in the classrooms around FS1 every day. They should be having access to this. Even sorry, can you move? Thank you. And the more messy, the better often, because the more messy the children get, the more engaged they are in making them shapes and marks. Just some more ideas. That's a great one. The colander and the pipe cleaner, or threading, or pegs, scissors. Invest in a pair of scissors, but don't leave your child alone with their brother or sister because they might cut their hair off. That happened one time. You know, all these things that they can push and pull, and then you'll see that they'll gradually build up to that stage of writing. I'm going to share these videos with you, and hopefully you've seen your class do disco on Seesaw. We do this at school where they manipulate the Play-Doh to different songs, which is so much fun. So there's a link to lots of things for you that you can do at home with that. Play-Doh so easy. Flour, oil, salt, and tartar, cream of tartar. Mix it up, change your color, and there you go. These are just some more videos like One Little Finger action songs. Again, they develop hand and strength coordination and the lead up to these skills. Okay, so again, we're here for pre-reading skills, and technically these skills are the foundation to which learning to read occurs. Phonological awareness, letter knowledge, beginning writing, and oral. So if talking about beginning writing in the pre-stages, in terms of phonological awareness, FS1 follows something called letters and sounds, where before learning about letters, they have to think about sounds in the environment. What can they hear around them? What sounds do their body make? Body percussion. What sound do instruments make? Then we start to slowly introduce the fact that sounds make letters and letters make words. And then they start to individual sounds like as, and they start to blend them together. So there's so much that a child must learn before they actually start to read. And being able to recognize letters does not necessarily mean that children are ready to start reading. So just because they know A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that doesn't mean that they're ready to start reading, because actually we teach it phonetically. And they need to understand that letters are symbols and that each symbol represents a sound. Sounds can be combined to make words, that words combine to make sentences, and sentences have meaning. So it's a long process. So in FS1, what we're focusing on is phonological awareness, beginning that pre-writing and oral language skills. So what can you always talk to your child? What can you hear around you? What can you hear with your, can we be quiet and what can we hear? What sounds can we make? Can you clap with your hands? You know, all these kind of things that are bringing their attention, and then that will slowly build up. Communication and language, again, an overarching theme. So many parents come and say, Miss Amy, my child can't talk. They do talk, but I don't understand what they say. And again, it's our job as FS1 teachers to build that communication and language and prepare them for FS2 in that way. And again, this is all related to reading. And a lot of it comes from home. The more you talk to your child, I know it sounds obvious, but the more you talk to your child, the more they'll develop in the basic talking, listening, and understanding. And what I always say is, it doesn't matter if they can't talk. Until I didn't talk till I was 3 years old. My mum was like, why is she not talking? But I had the understanding. If the child has an understanding of the word, they will talk in their own time. Please don't put yourself under pressure for that. And it's our job at school to create experiences to make the children want to talk. And that involves play, involves exciting games for them, exciting things to do where they want to speak. So we have listening, understanding, and speaking. They are the three main things. But for us, it's our job as well to teach children to listen. Listening is an active activity. And, you know, it's very hard sometimes for a 3-year-old to sit down and listen. So what do we have to do? We have to make it engaging for them. We have to make them want to do this. But most of all, we have to make sure that they understand. This is the bridge to talking. The understanding leads to the talking. So, and that's when the talking comes and they express their own meaning to people around them. Body language or using signs, you know, they'll have different ways. Vocabulary is a huge, huge, huge thing in terms of FS1 and how we teach. So every topic we have new words. Your child has their own store of words, and they're very small store of words when they come to FS1. But actually, I'm amazed at some of the children, and that's actually through exposure to like YouTube videos, to brothers, to sisters. The more that you can expose children to this vocabulary, the more that it'll sink into them like a sponge. And remember, when you're talking to your child, don't talk to them in the baby language. Talk to them in full sentences like they're an adult, because then they'll respond like that. And, you know, don't shy away from using big words. Like, the more big words you can use, the more it gives them exposure. And, sometimes I'm just amazed, like, especially when the children are playing, they'll copy words that they've heard at home, and it's like, wow, how do you know that? One of the best research says times that children absorb these new words is when they're having their dinner. So when you're sitting around the dinner table, it's nice to have a conversation, or asking your child to tell you a story. Now, this can be really hard at first, but if you keep practicing with them in the car, okay, we're going to tell a story. I'll start. Once upon a time there was, and they can build on that. Involving your child in conversations, just as much as you can, just focusing on their body language. What do you think about that? What can you see? What can you see there? When you're in the mall, tell me all the things you can see. All these kind of fun, exciting things that make talking fun for them. Okay, so reading is our number one love for reading. If you create your child to understand that reading is fun and that love for reading, that's the key fundamental. Find books on subjects that capture imagination. If they love Spider-Man only, get 10 books about Spider-Man and read them all. If they only like Frozen, get different books about Frozen. Start that initial interest, and the more time you spend with your child just looking at the pictures, talking about what can you see, what do you think's happening here, and taking that time away from TV or iPad and just sitting with a book, that can create that love of reading. And then as you go older and get more experience, they can exposure to more stories. These are some of my favorites. Now, I'm going to share with you like these on PDF, so that if you don't have to go out and buy them, you can actually look at them on Seesaw. Or, I know it's not ideal looking at a screen, but sometimes we aren't able to go and get these books. But yeah, there's just having that routine story before bed, having a reading den at home, just putting a blanket across 2 chairs with a torch, like that gives them that excitement of reading. So nice if you have siblings as well. Siblings like to feel that little bit grown up and read a story to their younger brother or sister. We also use, I just wanted to share with you, in case you ever see this happening, Wordless Books, which just tell stories through illustrations. And that's how we start the Oxford Reading Tree. And when they go into FS2, they start like very simple words like cat, sat, mat. But the great thing about these books is the children create their own story. So it's developing communication, language, listening, and talking, but they're also getting prediction, storytelling, critical thinking, everything. I don't think that's very clear, but one of our favorite things to do as well is give an interesting picture and just talk about it. Who can you see? What can you see? Where is the bird? Where is the squirrel? Where is the bear's baby? How do you think this has happened? When do you think this is? Why? All these open questions about these wonderful pictures. You could probably spend about an hour with your child talking about just one picture. Also, children learn best by observing and copying adult behavior. So parents, remember, you're always the model. So if you talk in your home language at home, talk in the proper good speech. Try and not use slang, try and use full sentences. Speak clearly, repeat, respond, use gesture, tone of voice, facial. They're always watching you. And they're always watching the teachers as well. Sometimes they come home with a Scottish accent when they're working with me. So children often learn best by observing and copying adult behaviour. So parents should try to model good speech and language skills whenever possible. Try the fine motor skills at home. Try the pre-writing skills. Create that love of reading, the talking. And remember, there's no need to rush. Best challenge we can do is give them activities where they can exercise their hand muscles and develop fine motor skills. This all preparing them for reading. And remember, there's no rush. Remember the ladder, small steps. All children come in their own way, and we're not rushing teaching letters and sounds, because if you do that, it can be detrimental to them. And we do the foundational skills first, then they fly into FS2 and are writing sentences in term 1. If you try and force it too quickly, this can delay a start, and sometimes even into year 1, it can be difficult for them to pick up because they don't have that good experience and foundational skills at the beginning. Vocabulary, think about the words you're using, the new words that you're introducing, talking to your child and reading books together, and the wordless books.